It's Tech Tip Day today. Hello, I'm George. You're on Pablo Spot. Occasionally, we need to make changes to the way we set up our infrastructure code. When we refactor our code, we oftentimes needed to make changes to the names of the resources or change how these resources are set up from a singular resource to a list or a set. Let's get some details on and let's start coding. Let's have a look at this security group resource that I created last time. So for a start, I will make sure that this security group rule is a single flat resource. So what I'm going to do is get rid of the for each property. And reinstate a value for the cider blocks. And suppose I feel like changing the name of the resource to something else. This is not probably a very valid reason to go about changing the resource name, but let's just play with that for now. And instead of calling it port 443 rule, I'm gonna change that to HTTPS rule. I know that I created the infrastructure for this resource block from the previous episode, so this already exists. So if I head to my VS Code terminal and run terraform plan, but before I do that, I have to initialize my AWS credentials first, otherwise everything will fail. So let's go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to run terraform plan. Notice that the plan summary result shows one resource to be destroyed and another resource to be created. And if we look further on the output, so let's expand on this. This result tells me that the existing resource will be recreated, and in a real-world scenario, this is not ideal and will cause potential downtime to your system. So what I used to do, which is very finicky way, is remove the resource in the state and then re-import it. This actually involves quite a lot of CLI commands that I have to run on my terminal to achieve the end result that I want to achieve. So let's have a look at this nasty error-prone option. So the first thing I will do is list down all the managed resources by running terraform state list. So let's go back to my terminal. And then the first command that I'm going to run is terraform state list. This list shows all the resources and references along with their state that are managed currently by Terraform. The second item in the list is what I'm actually interested in. A word of warning, when you do these steps that I am about to show you, which I hope you don't, because there's a lot of steps involved, and we want easier ways of doing things, and we want other people to learn what we know easier and better than how we might have experienced it. That's a lot of words to say in a span of 20 seconds. You need to make sure that you have the exact resource name that you need to change, otherwise you will run into so much trouble trying to reinstate the resource. And now that I know the exact resource name, I will then run a command that will remove the resource from being managed by Terraform. And to do this, I will run and then the resource name. And if I rerun terraform state list again, the item is no longer in the list. And the next step that I need to do is to import the actual resource into my Terraform state. And to do this, I would go to Terraform documentation to check how it is done for the resource that I need to import. So let's switch to my browser. And I want to know how to import an existing security group rule into my Terraform, which is the page that I have loaded currently. And if I scroll all the way down to this page, so apart from the actual Terraform resource name, this section at the top of the displayed page tells me all the components that I need to import the existing security group rule into my Terraform state. So let me switch back to my VS Code terminal. And now I am going to run Terraform state import, passing the new resource name, which I need to make sure it is surrounded by tick marks. And the next parameter will be a string that is composed of all the components that we saw from the previous documentation. The resource has now been successfully imported, and now if I run Terraform stateless again, my new security group resource called https_rule is now managed using the new name that I set. And then if I run Terraform plan, the result shows me that nothing is going to be changed. I hope at this point you realize how painful the process is having to remember the right set of commands to run, and let alone the parameters required for them to run correctly. And then later on, I realized that there's a terraform move command that I can use instead of running two commands. So let me go back to my code and tinker the resource name so we see how this terraform move works. So let's change the name of that resource. Save my changes, and then head back to my VS Code terminal and run Terraform plan again. We know that one resource will be destroyed and another one will be created. But to run Terraform move, we need to expand on this output. And we need to take note of the resources that we need to use to run the command. So the resource that will be destroyed is what we are going to replace, and the resource that will be created is what we will replace it with. So what we need to do is take note of those two names that we have on the output. And then we will run Terraform move like this. And now that the resource has been renamed successfully, let's run Terraform plan. And the result shows me that nothing has changed. So that's the second option, which is better than the first, but we have an even better way of doing this. When Terraform released version 1.1, the use of moved block was introduced, which made all these steps way simpler. So let's get back to my code. And let's change the name once again. Save that. What I need to do next is head to the end of my main.tf and introduce the move block. And what I need inside this block is a from property, which needs to point to the original name of the resource. And also a to property, which needs to be set to the new name of the resource. This move block that we just added here replaces all the CLI commands that we saw previously when renaming an existing resource. I know what you're thinking. And yes, this is so much simpler to do and implement. Now let's switch to my VS Code terminal. And remember, this move block only works if your Terraform version is at least version 1.1. So let me check what version of Terraform I have running locally. I have version 1.4.0, so I'm good. Now let's run Terraform plan. So that looks good. The summary result is what I'm expecting. The summary result essentially says nothing will change in the actual infrastructure. However, if I expand this output, notice that the output says that the resource name will be moved from its old name to the new name. So now I am happy to apply this change. Note that although this result says no infrastructure change to occur, we still need to apply this to reflect the new resource name change in the terraform state. So let's proceed with applying this change. So that's done. Last time, we changed the rule resource from being a single flat resource to a set to handle new cider blocks. So let's go back to my code and re-implement that. And because I'm changing the resource from single to a set, I need to reflect this inside my move block. So let's head to the end of my code. I need to change the from property to the old name of the resource, which is the https_rule. And I also need to change the to property to reflect the new name of the resource that is indexed based on the first element of the set. And now if I switch to my VS Code terminal and run Terraform plan, the summary result shows me that one resource will be created. Again, this is what I expect because I added a new cider block in my rule resource. But if I expand this output, not only am I creating a new resource, but I'm also moving the name of my existing resource from its old name to its new name. Now let's go ahead and apply this. That's it. I shared with you my old crazy ways and the new, simpler, and relatively error-proof way of renaming and managing resources in Terraform. Let me know what you think in the comments below and send me some likes if you find this useful. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like the content on this channel. Until next time, keep learning and stay safe. See ya.